Selectmen's meeting in order, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2014, 7 o'clock. Could everybody please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, public comment. Would anybody like to make a comment? Yes, sir.
Tony, on the Wheelabrator gift of the land to the town, or the agreement that you signed, I was led to believe at the Board of Finance meeting that the agreement would include Wheelabrator getting half the price of the gravel that was removed from the property and half the sale of the lots. Was I correct in my assumption with that agreement, or did...
You'd have to lock the ground.
In other words...
You have to gravel again, yes.
Yes, they would get half the gravel, and the sale of the lots, they would get half the sale of the lots?
No, 20%.
20%.
It was 25%, and Bill St. Ives renegotiated and got it down to 20%.
Okay.
That's a plus for us.
Okay. The reason I got two questions is, one, back in April 23rd, 1998, there was a town meeting where the town voted to build an access road along with Wheelabrator, and both were going to put in up to $1 million to build that access road. And Wheelabrator was responsible for acquiring all the property, all the permits, building the bridge, building the roads to make that access possible. So I have two questions that I would like to answer. One is, in the referendum in June 11th or June 15th, 2011, the referendum read that it would be a gift. It would be acquired by a gift from Wheelabrator. Seeing that Wheelabrator now is getting money for gravel and money for the lots, to me, it's no longer a gift, and I would wonder if the town attorney could write an opinion on it, but it's no longer a gift. And what, in that town meeting, Wheelabrator was supposed to present to the town all the costs of acquisition for land, bridge, and all the buildings to the town, and if you could get a copy of that, because at this point, it's no longer a gift. And I think that I would like the town attorney's opinion on it. Thank you.
God, and you just came under the wire. Anybody else like to make a comment or ask a question? Mr. Denone.
Yes, Mr. Drone, 85 Vandale Street. I have one comment and one question. The comment is of the minutes that will be approved this evening on page 5 of 7, item C. I believe that needs to be corrected because this is not going to include that diversion as stated here. So you might want to make a note of that before you approve the minutes.
Done.
Okay.
You think these 7 are sleeping at the switch?
Well, just in case, I have to get my face on video. But unfortunately, they don't post them. They haven't posted them since September, if you're not aware of that.
I'm aware of everything.
Oh, good. Well, then the next question, Your Highness, sir, your most awareness, is on the FPQ, the proposal request for the joint venture between the Board of Education and the town for its internet access, hosting, and web development and maintenance. Okay, the request for proposal, what do you know about that?
Selectman Kempek and I met with virtual town hall fellow at the COST convention, and he did Brooklands and he did Hartford's, and I invited him to come to Putnam to give us his pitch and sales pitch before we spend any money, because our website is not that good and the schools is not that good.
Okay.
So he does just municipalities, and he has over 50 clients, and I talked to Maureen, and I talked to Mr. Ives, and they both are very happy with him. And his initial outlay for the fee is not that much. It was like $4,000 and $4,800 for both towns. And his yearly fee is under $1,000. Scott, who is much better than I with computers, talked to the ins and outs and the guts and nuts and bolts of the computer system, and he walked away pretty satisfied. So nothing has been done. We're not voting on anything. We're not going to spend any money yet until he comes and makes his pitch.
Okay.
And the reason the school's involved is because I was doing my job as the selectman liaison to the Board of Ed, and coincidentally, at their meeting, they were talking about a website, and I brought up the guy that we had talked to, so the RFQ is actually coming from the Board of Ed for a joint thing with the town.
Okay, when I inquired about this to Denise, though, I didn't get that story at all. I'm wondering, Denise, how could you reconcile what you told me in regards to, Mayor Falzarano? When I inquired this process to Denise just today, as a matter of fact, her response to me was that the RFP had to go to Linda because Linda, who's in Department of Recreation, because they provided storm drains or something. And yes, I know, it was quite an interesting conversation. There was a gentleman there who did witness it, who was working on computers.
What's your problem?
Well, I just don't know why what you're telling me and what she was telling me are so just different stories. So I'm very pleased to hear what
There you go. So you're happy that's
I'm
good.
happy for that.
And your 3 minutes are up.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
very much.
Anybody else like to make a comment or ask a
Incorrect,
question?
okay.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to item 4. Approval of the minutes. Questions? Douglas?
Yes, as Mr. Deneau brought up, page 5 of 7 on the minutes, item C, everything after the comma, 209,435, says putting $200,000 from the sale into the EDC trust fund. We specifically took that language out when we voted on it 2 weeks ago. So, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes only after striking those 2 lines, putting $200,000 all the way down to set town meeting date.
Second.
Motion made, second, to approve the minutes with the deletion of the part about putting $200,000 in the trust. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, so ordered. Petitions and communications, none. Reports of standing committees, General Government Committee Codification.
And Peter was kind enough to share with me that at the Special Service District meeting, Chief Hayes said that he should have that back to us shortly, so we'll be working on those hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
And I talked to Chief Hayes, and he said that the Special Service District Board said that he could be in charge of all of them. Do what you want to do. That's exactly what they said.
So they gave me everything.
Right. So,
Okay.
very good. Codification,
Yeah.
because the old city and, tire horses and posts, and you can't spit on the sidewalks, all that stuff. Item 7, reports of special committees, Wheelabrator Contract Review Committee. Joe, you have anything on that?
We met, the committee met March 10th. They started to go into depth in terms of the draft agreement from February 2013. They've raised some issues, and they want to have they're going to have proceed to further meeting, which will be on April 14th.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Doug on that Wheelabrator contract? Okay.
What's your timeline after that?
Well, it's beneficial to the town if the agreement is reached after July 1st, because we go forward to the next January. But, so we're hoping to have things brought to the Board of Selectmen and eventually a town meeting sometime this summer.
So,
The longer we delay, the better it is for the town.
Well, yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
as long as it's after July 1st.
There you go.
But I mean, we have some issues that minor issues, but there are issues that we have to iron out. So it's not like we're stonewalling. But based on what we're doing, I think July is a pretty good time for us.
Revision Study Committee. How's the charter coming, Doug?
That's a good question. I haven't had time to schedule a meeting yet, so I'll try to.
Is it in the near future, though?
Near future, of course. Good answer.
Okay. Putnam Facilities Study Group, that appears on number 12, like B, so we'll just drop that one here, pick it up down at the end. Staff reports, economic and community development. We all have Delpha's report, as you have the building official report, the town planner's report, and the assessor has nothing to report, except we have a letter, you received that letter. We'll go to that in a minute. Does anybody have any question for Delpha, Don Williams, or Doug on their reports?
Can I just add something to my report?
You certainly may.
I'm happy to notify the board that as of tomorrow, we should have acquired the 65 acres of the Zilberg property, and also the tree clearing on the 8 acres that comprises the development site for the YMCA started today.
And we can verify that because Doug went out there to look at it and came back all mudded up. So they are cutting the trees and de-stumping.
Question, did they get the tree clearing and the stump clearing for the price that they?
No, it was $1,500 more per acre than they originally intended.
And where?
So that's from 4,000 to 45,
Okay.
or 5,400.
And
It's one of the two.
YMCA is paying for that?
No, they're paying only up to 4,000, so the other has to come out of proceeds from the gravel,
Who's gravel?
all of our gravel,
So that's
both Wheel Grader and towns.
Okay.
And if we did do that, buck up the other 1,500, it'd be about a 6-month delay. So we thought it would be prudent to, okay, we'll take it out of the gravel money from all, divide the pot, and just pay it. It's one thing after another with this party that we're dealing with. Okay? I don't want to say any more, but that's it's aggravation.
I don't know anything about that.
You're a good
Good.
builder.
You're young yet.
You received this letter from Randy, our town assessor, and she's in a bit of a pickle, as the letter says, and it's not so much this year, it's next year when reevaluation's on, and right now Lee Knickie is the only member on this board. Joe Hopkins was on it, and he's a good fella. Bob Garso recommended, I called Joe, and I said, you want to stay on the board? He said, yes. Unfortunately, he can't do that because of, you see, how does that work? Everybody's got to vote. We have to get all the elected officials together. And the last thing we got from Bill. And just like the vacancy on the Board of Finance, the vacancy, there's a Democrat and Republican vacancy there. There's a vacancy on, 2 vacancies on this thing. And the way Bill St. Ange explained, according to the charter, that's his interpretation. I looked at it again for the 50th time, and it seems as though the Board of Selectmen could approve this, but then, it's like the devil and the angel on your shoulders. When you look this way, it sounds good. You look this way, it sounds bad. So Doug is going to, why do I keep calling Doug? I look at you, Doug, I think of a lawyer. Bill St. Ange said he's going to give a final ruling for all parties that they can bite into, and that's it. He's going to contact with the chief election official in Hartford, and he kind of agrees with Bill's assessment that all elected officials have to get together in a room, make a motion to appoint Doug Cutler as selectman. Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. You're elected. That's how it's going to work. He said that's the simplest, most democratic, and fairest way to do it. I said, okay, I'll bring it back to the Board of Selectmen.
You can't be done electronically?
No, I want you here, live. We don't know who's guarding your computer. So that's why Randy put this letter in. She's very nervous about so much more next year, but it's good to have her on top of the job. Because when like, who had the big, Kmart or Walmart put the big addition on? Okay, when they get assessed, he says, guaranteed, they're going to say, you're assessing too much, and they'll bring in a barrage of lawyers, so we have to get everything in place before that comes. I'm not picking on them, but, you know, well, any new business or your house, and if you're not happy with the assessment, you can't leave Mickey by himself. Actually, you can't do it, there's no form.
That very thing happened last time we had reassessment with Putnam Parkade,
Right.
big lots, Sears, Kmart, all that.
Yeah.
And I think we actually, with our district, we had to write a check back, a sizable check back, because they lowered the assessment. And they had already paid the tax at the higher rate, so when the lower one came in, they just got checked.
That'll definitely be cleared up as soon as I get it in for Bill. Well, we do have about,
I had a question
go right ahead.
pertaining to, we had a leaflet in there, a couple of them for Fiber Tech. Can somebody expound on that so we know really what this is all about?
It's,
Fiber Tech?
Almost looked like laying a fiber line from the town hall to the school.
I don't think that belongs in our package.
I have no idea what this one is.
I didn't
Oh,
see
does
any.
it? That's what it goes with?
Is it?
We're part of the regional performance incentive.
Oh,
I had no idea what that was either.
Doug?
let me get to that point.
Glad you called Doug, because I have no idea what that is.
The two things that I didn't know what were this regional performance incentive.
Right.
You're saying this goes with this?
Yes.
There's two of
Okay.
those. One is for the Nutmeg Network connectivity, and the other one is for NECOG and their
Okay.
grant.
So well, there's a new state program, which is the Regional Performance Incentive Grant Program, and the Council of Governments came up with 6 priorities. One is the Pre-Hospital Emergency Care Enhancement Study, the Regional Land Record Modernization Initiative, the GIS data layer expansion, and then the value-added processing, and the Regional Cattery,
Yep.
and the Regional Traps, Spay, Neuter, Release, and Maintain Program. So where does this fall in?
There's two,
Excuse me?
but there's 2 resolutions. That one, the Fiber Tech goes with the first resolution on the agenda. The Nutmeg Network.
Oh, okay.
So what is the, okay, so it's 17,800 that's going to be split, or is this through NECOG? Is that what you're saying?
Not the Nutmeg Network.
No.
That's the state program that it's offered to town to tie into the network, Nutmeg Network. It's to get the high performance.
We have a T1 line going into the high school already.
Right,
So
but
you're-
we're not eligible, so,
Are you trying to connect the high school to the town hall?
yeah, it will be connected to town hall.
Okay. So you're going to do a fiber optic line from here to the high school? or
Whatever the network,
That's what it
Nutmeg
looks like
Network
in the
is.
packet.
Yeah,
You said there's a grant?
it's a grant, yes.
Okay.
And didn't you say there's two endorsements?
2 resolutions.
2 resolutions, they're the same
They're
thing?
exactly the same. One is for the, and the bottom language says the project is attached, this to attach. So that's why you have the quote for the
Two
Nutmeg Network.
different projects.
Yes.
So my question is, if it's not a grant, and it's not sponsored by NECOG or paid for by NECOG, doesn't this have to go out to bid? We're just getting one quote from
The
this guy?
state is paying for that.
The state's paying.
grant.
Yeah, it comes from the
all
state.
right. Well, I feel better.
I knew you were going to say that.
No pennies out of our pocket.
Now, the second part of all this, where you read off that list of
6
things.
I remember looking at something like that.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around exactly what it is that we're going to be discussing or voting on, because some of those ideas sound a little,
Again, you're dealing with how many communities here?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 communities. And they've all came up with these are the 6 priorities that they want to apply for the Regional Performance Incentive Grant through the state of Connecticut.
Oh, okay, so this is just gonna be saying, we acknowledge these are the 6 priorities for this year and authorize you to go for the grants, that's it?
Correct.
Okay, 'cause we did, I remember last year, we voted on our priorities. I remember that part of this. Okay, so this is just, and now are they listed in order of priority?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
I was at the NECOG meeting, and this pre-hospital emergency care enhancement study, they gave us all kind of charts and stuff. I guess there's certain, I don't know, I'd probably say this wrong, EMTs and medical staff, some could give oxygen, some can't, who can give a needle, this one can't, some can give intravenous, this one can't, and there is a hell of a conflict over how much each one gets, and what they can do and can't do at a scene.
Why do we have elected officials making those decisions?
We're not making decisions, it's just showing us what happens in these private entities.
But who makes the priorities?
The
All
medical
these-
people make the
Our
priorities.
people, the 12 towns or whatever?
16
towns.
16 towns?
Right, we voted last year, our input was put into NECOG. NECOG then compiled, I hate to see how, looked at what priorities every town set, and then figured out which were the highest for all of its member towns.
See, I see two here, I'm just being very candid. Regional trap spray, neuter, release, and maintain program, 175 cops in Holland, and a regional cattery, 384,000.
That's a major problem, actually.
But don't we have more pressing problems than that?
Well, that's why I was on
That's why
five.
it's 5 and 6.
Yeah, when we set our votes, we didn't have those on our priority list.
right.
Somebody else,
Somebody else put them
Yeah.
on it.
yeah.
Peter, at that meeting, I don't want to interrupt Ellen, but at that meeting, they had citizens' comments, and I'm looking at scores of people are coming up on myself, what the hell are these people here for? And then they started. The floors have to be 48 degrees, they're not 48 degrees, the feces are lower than, they're animal, I have a dog, but these people are zealots when it comes to this stuff. The neutering and all that other stuff, and we rescued 3,024 cats, and, you know, it goes on and on and on. That's a big priority, and you know, we've got one of the best pounds and stuff there down in NECOG, and I think a lot of these new towns that come in, they're coming in because of that.
Yeah, I was just surprised that there weren't more pressing problems than
Well,
this.
Well, I said the same thing to myself, Peter, but I didn't want to bring that up, but looked like it's stone there.
Well, if I recall correctly, I think for us, GIS would put it as number 1.
Yeah,
I think the
can
land
understand, put
records
okay
was
on that
number
one.
2, yeah. Yeah,
You know?
and the fact is,
Sharing.
I think what this says is they can look for grants, for regional grants for all of these.
But not necessarily with the, either.
Right, but the fact is, they may find a grant for the cattery that they're now authorized to apply for, whereas there may not be any grants that they have that they can find for record modernization this year. This way, it gives them the authority to find what money's out there, if there is any, rather than just saying we're only going to look for money for this one thing, even though there might not be any money to get for that one.
That regional trap, spay, neuter, and release and maintain program, that's $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the priorities, and
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to vote on it, because I would have voted no.
So specifically, what are we going to do tonight with this?
We have to vote on it.
In order for this to go to the state of Connecticut, for it to be considered, you have to, as a town, you would have to recommend that we send these,
And this is a package deal.
this is a package deal.
Right.
Well, it's an easy way to get a no vote.
Does it have to be unanimous? I noticed the pre-filled out resolution said 7-0. I'm
Does
just
it?
curious why
Yeah.
that was.
No, it doesn't help it.
That was Doug Collins, wishful thinking.
That was just a positive thing, okay.
So we'll need a motion to, when you say we approve this.
Right.
Right, later in the agenda.
We'll do the agenda.
No, it didn't, that's it.
You're throwing me off.
I know.
Throwing these things out of the agenda.
Yeah. Well, I think we're still under your report, so
Oh, I
you are the
I didn't bring
bearer,
that up.
you are the bearer of all knowledge.
Oh, I see.
First time I've lost.
You got 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go to, Owen, let's go to unfinished business A, town administrator contract extension, possible executive session regarding personnel matter. Alma, that's kind of like your baby. What do you want to do with that?
Well, you and I, Tony and I are going to meet, the mayor and I will meet regarding Doug's evaluation, and summarize that up this week. And I have to go and meet with the attorney, and then I'll be bringing that back to the general government committee right after I do that. So,
We're going to meet probably Friday, and then we'll meet with the lawyer, and then we'll come back to everybody.
Well, it goes to the general government committee first.
Right,
then
the general government thing. Item 10B is fiscal year 2014-15 budget.
We're behind on that, so we're going to put that together and get a better package. And one of the things we're missing is some of the revenue items. And unfortunately, our treasurer is out of town on a family emergency, so she won't be back till Wednesday.
And one of the other reasons is that our budget, our audit was 15 days in arrears. So that threw off the budget process. And then Sandy had a family emergency, so it's kind of, that's American University calling.
Yeah, that you just got
They got a forfeit.
Not yet. And C, Quinnebog Regional Tech Park.
Okay, can I back up to the budget thing?
Go ahead.
So, this board meeting with the Board of Finance where they all present their budgets, is that not happening?
I don't think that's going to happen because
Gotcha.
Bosley's in Florida.
Right.
Willie Buskett won't be there. She's out.
Right.
I'm gone.
He'll be in Milwaukee crying in his beer. So,
Lisa's got good beer.
so I think we're going to have to postpone that, or just cancel that.
But you're going to delay it.
Well,
Not post necessarily.
Well, the Board of Finance meeting is the next Monday. So the whole purpose of that was to have a meeting prior to that, so that the Board of Finance can get a good look at and ask direct questions. I mean, I went over it with Willie and Bosley, but if like Bob Garso asked me a question about something, about what diesel thing is this, the hell do I know? That's why I wanted Bosley to explain why we have that.
Well, can't they delay the Board of Finance, whatever they're doing? We got to have that date.
That's
gotta be
by
on
true.
there.
That's
I
unfortunate.
think that's by true.
I mean, that's really unfortunate because that would have been a plus.
But as
Right.
my deceased best friend said, follow the charter.
And we're up against the
Time,
deadline.
the clock starts kicking in now.
I know.
Yeah.
Public hearing, is it, what,
But you know,
It's 1 minute.
1 minute.
well, someone has to make a motion to recess this meeting to get to that.
In a minute, No, you guys finished?
At the
Yeah.
proper time.
I move that I felt that. I move that we
It's 'cause I don't have
recess this meeting so we can call the town meeting to order.
second.
Motion made and second to recess the select meeting in lieu of the town meeting. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Okay, Sarah's here. I'll ask her, very nice of you to read the call.
Town of Putnam North with special town meeting, March 17, 2014. The electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meeting in the town of Putnam, Connecticut. I hereby notify and warn you that the special meeting of said town will be held at the Daniel S. Rivera Selectmen's Chambers, Putnam Town Hall, 126 Church Street, Putnam, Connecticut, on the 17th day of March 2014, at 7:30 in the evening for the following purposes. 1, to choose a moderator for said meeting. 2, to determine the wishes of those present and eligible to vote at town meeting of the town of Putnam regarding a resolution authorizing the sale of Lot 19-1 on Ridge Road in the Putnam Industrial Park to Foster Corporation for the price of $209,435. The property consists of 9.21 acres, re-subdivision as approved by the Putnam Planning Commission on January 27, 2014, together with a right of first refusal on adjoining Lot 19-2. Dated at Putnam, Connecticut, this third day of March 2014. Town of Putnam, Anthony P. Falzerano, Mayor, Renee C. Lasco, J. Scott Pempek, Alma D. Maury, Owen A. Tarr, Peter E. Benoit, Douglas Cutler Jr., Board of Selectmen, says Sarah J. Sinay, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Sarah. First item is to choose a moderator for this meeting.
Nominate Anthony Falzarano.
Second.
Motion made, nominated to nominate Anthony Falzano for moderator. Any other nominations?
Nominations be closed.
Second.
Motion made, second to nomination be closed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. I've never got a moderator before.
Good day for you.
We have a lot of things.
Need to vote as well.
Oh, all those in favor of voting me in?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, so voted. So, there was some clarification, we read the minutes. So we are voting, or the townspeople are voting, just to authorize the sale of the lot for $209,435.
I make a motion that we approve this item.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Sinay, second by Mr. Pempek, to approve that item. Discussion.
You're also making,
You have to state your name, please.
George Tinghurst, 30 East Putnam Road, you're also making part of the agreement is the first refusal.
Yes.
That's part of the motion.
Any other discussion? What? Seeing none, all in favor?
One question. So what does happen to that $209,000?
Goes in the general fund.
Okay. It goes through the regular process.
Definitely, Pete.
Just want to make sure.
Okay. Your counterpart made that right off the bat.
I know, I just wanted
All
to
right,
make
okay. How can you trust it? All those present voting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? According to the chair, the ayes have it, so voted.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's been a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ayes have it, so voted. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, we need a motion now to...
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Motion has been made by Alma to reconvene the selectmen's meeting, second by Mr. Pempek. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstention? Ayes have it, so voted. Okay, let's get back to unfinished business. Item 10C, Industrial Quinebaug Regional Tech Park. Doug, you want to shed some light on that, where we stand on the tech park?
We've had, now that we're owning, we'll own the land, we're pressing forward to try to get everything wrapped up in terms of our ability to go out to bid on the project. We are aiming for the end of April to get that accomplished. One of the things holding it up is that there was a proposal put forth by the archaeological firm that had done the digs in the area. And we are still waiting to hear from the State Historic Preservation Office on that particular plan. If we get the sign-off from the State Historic Preservation Officer, then we can, that's holding up a number of other issues, one being that we have to get a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers now. Under the existing process with the Army Corps of Engineers, they have a general permit application, and we think we are eligible under the general permit process just to get a sign-off from the Army Corps of Engineers. But they can't do anything until we actually get the State Historic Preservation Officer to check off on our plan to protect the artifacts in the vicinity of where we're going to be putting the bridge abutment. So if everything falls in place and we're able to get the sign-off from the State Historic Preservation Officer, there's nothing else that needs to be done except for the Army Corps. Hopefully they check off that we are eligible in the general permit. and that would make us eligible to go out to bid at the end of April. Some of the other things that we're looking at, one of the things we have to do is, once we own the land, we will then acquire the land from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection on the east side of the Quinebaug River, which gives us that access way between the Quinebaug River shoreline and the Kennedy Drive. And then we're also having a Fuss & O'Neill, who's working with us on all our sewer issues, is in the process of designing a what do you call it, not a force main, but a lift station to accommodate the tech park. So that's in design, and then we will go out with various contracts to bid on various contracts that would allow us to run sewer lines and also water lines. It's contemplated that we are going to be able to use the force main that Wheelabrator installed to go take their effluent from the ash landfill and bring it to our sewer plant. So that will save us in terms of the cost of running sewer lines. However, we will still have to put in a lift station. The water lines are, part of the water lines are going to be installed under the existing contract we have with Beta Group and the existing funding that we got from the USDA to run the water lines down to the treatment plant to put in a larger water main to the treatment plant. And then we'll be seeking additional funds from USDA to run the line into the tech park, to the YMCA and into the tech park. One other contract that we'll have to go out to bid for is to extend the river trail on the east side of the Quinebaug from the farmers market down to the existing Wheelabrator Bridge, the one-lane bridge that brings traffic into that area now. And at that time, we're also contemplating putting in the installation of a gas pipeline. Now, whether we put it in the actual Kennedy Drive roadbed or we bring it down the trail, it's still up in the air. We're still talking to Yankee Gas about the best options in terms of bringing gas to the park. One of the things that they've presented is the possibility that they could bring in gas from Pomfret. I believe they have a station at Wright's Crossing Road in Pomfret. So there's a possibility that and again, this will depend on the economics of it, to bring the gas into the tech park from that location, and they would bring it through the airline trail from the west. So there's a number of different things that before we go out to bid on that project, that have to be, we have to get more certainty to the cost that would be involved and what would be the best way of being able to bring that gas pipeline to the tech park. One thing that we certainly want to do is try to avoid as much as possible the digging up the Kennedy Drive. That causes a little bit more cost in terms of the project. However, if we do bring the gas pipeline down Kennedy Drive, then certain businesses along the way could tie in. So you could have the bone and joint place tie in for gas and those types of things, which would reduce our cost. The other thing that you should be aware of is, and we brought this up when we were discussing this with the Yankee Gas representative, is that once that gas line is installed, it goes on the property tax rolls of the town of Putnam. So in the short run, you have to pay for the installation, but in the long run, you would be having that be put on your property tax rolls.
So what's our ROI on that?
Excuse me?
What's our ROI on that?
That's what we haven't determined yet because of the uncertainty now in terms of where we would like to, how we would like to bring the gas line in. So one of the things we've discussed is the possibility that the YMCA, because they'll be the first project out of the gate in terms of this, would be to install propane for the time being until we get this all sorted out with the gas pipeline, but at the same time that they would run off of propane, install the necessary equipment so that they don't have to retrofit, which I understand is complicated and more costly after. But as long as they have an understanding that the gas line will be coming to the tech park at some point, then they'd be able to tie in.
They're
But again,
okay with that?
they're not okay with that because there's
No, I'm
there's
saying what
quite a
the
bit of,
What using the propane
right,
temporarily.
because of the nature of their use at YMCA's, because of the pools, heating two pools and the other functions at the Y, it tends to be quite costly for them. So they would much prefer that we go with the gas pipeline as soon as possible. So that's why we're working to get that resolved as quickly as possible.
So what's your timeline really? When would you like to really see that in?
I'd like to see this, by sometime this summer resolved once and for all.
Peter, it's 1.3 million if it's on us. And we go through Pomfret, and that's the bone we're throwing to them. Once they go through Pomfret, then Pomfret can tax that as an income, and then run it down through Rice Crossing Road. So it'll benefit both towns. So that's another bone for them. And we're trying to get our neighbor, Pomfret, to partner with us. If they don't, we're looking at Woodstock, because they don't have any tech park. So once we get one, what's it, 75%?
75%.
Which will really help us tremendously.
And the other thing, we have met, we had a meeting, very productive meeting last week with the Department of Economic and Community Development, the people that manage what they call the Manufacturing Assistance Act, which is which is the program we would apply for to get the 75% grant. And they were very encouraging to have us submit it. They're not quite sure how it would be handled in terms of having two towns come in. They've never had a proposal like that.
Well, we could make a proposal that's not a contract on that, I'm sure. If we have two, it's better than one.
Yeah, we're working on that. The other part of the equation that Doug forgot to mention is that we sent the schematic back to J&D Engineering to see if we can carve out more lots. And then once we know that part of the equation, then we can present it to our neighboring towns. And my idea was to sell shares in the park.
Like
A 10% share, something like that, in 10% increments. So
They would give us an initial investment, and then we would give them, from now for 99 years, a check every year.
They
Sell
get
the
a share.
land, they get their share.
So, yeah, so they know.
Get a share of the tax revenue minus a maintenance fee that would have to charge for maintaining the roads and infrastructure and things like that. So.
One of the things that we're trying to set up a meeting with some of the people at the legislature who are very much into regional concepts. In fact, the Speaker of the House is one of them who has been really pushing the regional concept, and also Senator Marty Looney from New Haven. I forget, he's the deputy majority leader? No, he's the majority leader in the Senate. And what we would like to ask them to do is maybe think outside the box. Now, the state never wants to give up a revenue source, but the town of Putnam generates a lot in terms of the sales tax. In fact, we're a net provider to the state of Connecticut in terms of the sales tax that we generate. So is there any way that thinking about this in terms of ability to maybe use the sales tax as an incentive to bring towns in, and we could share in the sales tax that are generated based on what is developed through the tech park? Just some of the ideas that, since we're being unique here in terms of approaching this on a regional basis, are there other unique ways of sharing revenue that would attract communities to come in with us and be partners on the tech park?
Parker and Woodstock would be great because they don't have any industry or anything. So.
Peter,
And they don't want it.
As I said to Doug and I said to Scott, if our neighbors don't want any part of this, and we have the pipeline and the infrastructure all done, then send it out to the whole state. A town like Avon or Glastonbury, they got money. They may just sit down and say, this is beautiful. We'll throw them $100,000, and then every year from now, for 99 years, we're going to get a check. We don't care who it is. We just want another town to join us. We want to grab that 75%.
I have a question.
Yes, Douglas.
Thank you. You had mentioned about the land from the Quinnebog River to Kennedy Drive, that we would have to get it from the state. Now, in order to receive the land from Wheelabrator, we had to go to town meeting or referendum. Do we have to do the same thing for
No,
that land?
it was contemplated in the motion that was made at that time.
It was.
Referendum.
Okay. Moving on. Number 11, grant considerations and updates. Possible action will be required.
You have a grant request. It's an Arts Catalyst Placemaking Grant Proposal. for $10,000 matching grants. And Delphi, if she's here, did I see her? I thought I was.
Always right behind you.
Always right behind me, protecting my back.
That's it.
Are there any questions on that? I don't know what information you got on it. It's to consider the approval of submission to the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development. It's through their Office of the Arts. It's a new program that was just assigned last year. It's an Arts Catalyst placemaking grant, and this is a proposal to assist in funding First Fridays events. Putnam Business Association, along with the municipality, Recreation would help with that through in-kind donations, and any cash donations are going to come from the Putnam Business Association because they have supported it through their funding anyway. So this is just $10,000, and it's really about the creative workforce economy, and the state is really pushing, instead of asking, you know, the artists to always volunteer their work, that they would be paid as for their
And
There are.
when would that be forthcoming, this grant?
It's a 6-month grant, so we would start, our events are from May through October, so we would get it, they decide in July, so it would be part of this year and into next year's season. I had to write a letter of intent to be invited to apply for this grant, and we received word back immediately that the letter of intent was approved and that we could.
I guess the word gets around when you have a hopping downtown, huh?
So
There's a
the,
lot of arts and...
We are that hub, absolutely.
so the matching on the town's part will be more of an in-kind, not the cash one.
No cash money.
Okay.
So, and if anything, if the municipality were to apply for this in the future, and it could be applied for not just First Fridays events, but many kind of opportunities that could help the recreation department out for some of the, you know, the educational opera al frescoes or al fresco events, you know, this could help in supporting the recreation budget also. So,
Thank you, Del.
I guess, Mr. Mayor, you're all set on the in-kind services, should it be needed?
Oh, for sure.
I move we apply for the grant as submitted.
Second. Motion made, second, to apply for the grant as submitted.
can I just add one thing?
Before we vote, should we have Delphi add one more thing?
Sure. Peter, to your question too, is we have a host of volunteers, and that's everything from Girl Scout troops to everything. Any volunteer can put in $10 towards every hour that they help, that goes towards the in-kind donation. So it's not just public works or recreation or that kind of thing.
And to further clarify that, I hosted the Cub Scouts before a select meeting, so we've got those in their pocket. Seeing there's no more discussion, all those in favor of the grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it, so granted. Okay. Second is consideration of approval of drug-free communities funding resolution.
This is mine. I was alerted to the fact that the president in his budget that was presented to the Congress reduced the amount of funding for the Drug-Free Communities Program by about $6 million. And so, since we are a recipient of the Drug-Free Communities Program, I thought it was important that if it was your wishes to go on record to support the funding at $92 million, which will allow them to not only fund our program, but fund other programs throughout the United States and Connecticut and the United States.
We need a motion on that.
Right.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Pete, second by Alma. Any other questions to Doug? All those in favor of the drug-free community funding resolution, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Ayes have it, so voted. Item C, Town Hall, extended, excuse me, B, Putnam Facility Study Group, next steps.
One of the problems with the Putnam Facility Study Group is that they have lost a number of members, so there's one thing in terms of populating the study group, and the other thing is in terms of where they could play a role in terms of determining the next steps, whether it was the library, the armory, the town hall, how to move forward in terms of getting those projects. off the dime and at least giving them some consideration to either have, bring them to some sort of resolution. So the first question was in terms of populating the group, that they do need members. And then the next step would be is to give them some charge in terms of, or revisit their charge in terms of what their role would be in terms of library and the town hall and the armory. One thing that you should be aware of is that we signed what was it we did? We gave up our right to the property across the way. We basically said, we're no longer interested in it, so that purchase and sales agreement no longer is in place, and we didn't ask for it to be extended. So.
Who do you have on that group right now?
Ed Perrin, Norm Perrin, Doug, Nick Longo, and Alan Rawson. I don't know if we have anybody else.
Peter died.
Peter died.
Dave.
Vitale resigned.
Joshua Keach
Never showed.
We have a lot of populating.
You still have 5 credible people on that committee.
Technically, Doug can't be on it.
Doug can't be on it.
Oh.
So technically, his spot, you can't, as a selectman, you can't be on that committee as a selectman.
She's not picking on you, Doug.
No.
Because then it comes
You're
back
on
to
it.
public.
I'm not supposed to be a voting member. I'm just the liaison, the secretary.
So what do you want to do with this thing? You want to revisit this, come back?
You can take my spot. I have no problem with that.
What's that?
You can take my spot.
She can
Oh,
take her.
okay.
Meeting on the 31st.
On the 31st of this month, we have a joint meeting between the board of
Everybody.
Oh, okay.
But we still need members.
Board of Selectmen, Building Facilities Group, and the library.
Okay.
I was going to raise my hand, but I won't.
Well, if you know other people, then.
What's that joint meeting for?
Just to discuss where they go from here. So.
Okay.
Well, if we don't have a full
Compliment.
complement on that group, should that, I know we need to expedite this, but wouldn't it be nice that we populate the facilities group
Populate it first.
and figure out what their charge is prior to putting them in front of, I think that would be, we should do our due diligence to make sure they know what their charge is, what we're going to decide their charge is prior to putting them in front of 2 other committees. They should know what we want of them, and all their members, or most of them, should be in place.
Is there a specific number that they have to have?
Well, I
about
think
8?
8, 9. You don't not necessarily want
I believe it was
an
in
even
the-
number, you want 7
It was in
maybe.
the original chart.
Probably 7 would be good. So 3 more members?
Well, it's just,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
quick question about selectmen being on that committee. Scott's on how many different committees? You got Wheelabrator contract.
Oh, I'm on a liaison. The only other committee I'm on is the Wheelabrator Committee.
Liability.
You're on the Wheelabrator committee. Owen's on Recreation Committee. And you guys are voting members, right? You're a voting member of the Recreation Committee? Scott, voting member of, so why can't I be a voting member of Facility Study Group?
I don't know.
And that came, I was told that by Mr. Serafin, but I cannot vote.
No, we can't ask
You were
them.
there. Yeah,
That'd make
I'll
fun.
check for
So
you.
we have
Well,
to
Nick would know.
check the charter.
Yeah.
I would hate to have these guys have to get off those committees, because I know they do a good job. I mean, you know, if we're gonna apply
I know
that
Owen's
rule
grandfathered
across the
in.
board.
Yeah.
And you came on, well, you were.
I started
before
as a
the,
Board of Ed member on the.
And you
Wheelabrator
weren't
Committee.
on the selectmen back then either.
So,
I will find out.
Thank you.
yeah, maybe check the charter.
Okay.
I
still
think
need
it's a
2 more.
good committee. I think that we definitely should
We're gonna-
pursue that, because I think they do a hell of a job.
They do, Pete. We'll check, I'll check.
I just think it's only fair that we have everything in order prior to everybody meeting. It's only fair to members.
That makes sense.
This is, popular and everything else.
Okay, so item
And
C,
your charges cancel this meeting on the 31st, I think.
31st?
Yeah, I think we're gonna need that meeting date for another
Yeah, save it for another day.
finance, budget meeting. So.
We don't have, we can't,
Oh, we could do it that
by
night.
charter, we can't.
Town hall, extended hours, discussion, possible vote.
I'd like to make a motion to table this so all of us would have a chance to get a hold of other town halls and some people in those towns how they feel like not having Friday. I did yesterday, the other day I just called the 4 biggest towns in the area, Thompson, Woodstock, Killingly, Plainfield, and every single one of them are open on Friday. Most of them, Thompson's 9 to 5, Woodstock's 8:30, 4:30, Killingly 8:30, 4:30, Plainfield 8:30, 4:30. Woodstock was the only one that had a nighttime, 8:30 to 6 o'clock on Wednesdays. And then they were open on Friday from 8:30 to 3. So we got some other towns to find out. I think we should just take another meeting for everybody to research it and then come back. We're trying to serve the people in this community, whether it's better to have longer hours for a half-hour a day, or is it better to take the entire Friday off? I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not, but I think we need time to look at that.
I couldn't agree with you more. Friday's a very important day that a lot of people work to get their business done. And if you're not open at all, I think it'll hurt the people.
Well,
That's just my own opinion.
Truth be told, when I read this and I said, when I saw the hours and an effort to be more accommodating to our community, you know, I was thinking, well, what about Saturday?
Yeah.
Half a day on Saturday or something like that. But to go the other way and not be open on all day on a Friday, I was like, whoa, I don't see how that would be more accommodating. So I agree with you, and I think we should do a little more research.
Well, there's some other towns.
Let me just inform John Q. Pollock. I received a letter from said the following discussion. We had a department head meeting here in February, and it was regarding extending the town hall hours in an effort to be more accommodating to our community and others needed services. In Wyndham County, 7 out of 10 full-time town halls have extended evening hours and are closed on Friday or have shortened hours. A survey was conducted polling 16 Putnam Town Hall associates and 2 extended operating options listed below. And option 1 would be Monday through Wednesday, 8 to 4:30, Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Friday, 8 a.m. to 11:30. Option 2, Monday to Wednesday, 8 to 5, Thursday, 8 to 6, Friday closed.
With a half-hour lunch.
With a half-hour.
How's that possible? That's another one. I didn't get there yet.
Well,
They don't quite get the hour
there were
on
2
Friday
votes for
either,
option
but-
1. There were 11 votes for option 2. 2 said neither, and that was that. So just so people in the audience know what the heck we're talking about.
I understand that, everything what you said.
No, I'm just reading
And
just for the
and
people.
the people have made their choice on what they prefer. But I think our due diligence is for the people of the town to service,
Yeah.
to truly service. And I think they would be cut out. And I agree with Owen, I would think we need at least another meeting to go do some more research and see what other towns are doing. But as I see it in the forefront, I just don't think it's a good, wise idea to eliminate Fridays totally without what Scott mentioned before, having something available on a Saturday to do. And I'm sure they wouldn't want to come here on Saturday.
Well, rather than vote on the issue, I'd rather see the vote on the table. So
Right.
more discussion, more research can be done.
Need a second.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Owen, second by Alan to table town hall workers' hours. Any more discussion needed? Seeing none, all those in favor of tabling that item signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Anybody abstain? Okay. Item D, consideration and approval of Nutmeg Network Regional Performance Incentive Grant Endorsement. Which one is that?
That's the other.
This is the one that's paid for by the state.
The state's paying for that?
They pay.
No cash for us?
100% is what you're saying for the labor fiber.
I move that we approve that.
And then I will second it.
Motion made, second to approve the Nutmeg Network Regional Performance Incentive Grant paid for by the state. Discussion.
Which one is the nutmeg one?
Well, the
Fiber
state's
Tech.
paying
Fiber
for it.
Tech.
The
Fiber Tech.
Got it.
Blue one.
Got it.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
How soon?
Abstention?
How soon is it going to happen?
Soon, I hope. The state has to get all 169 towns on the Nutmeg Network in the next 2 fiscal years, so it depends on where we are in the queue. And we needed to get the resolution of endorsement into the state by the end of March.
You got it.
So you got it.
Okay, next would be the consideration and approval of a regional performance incentive grant resolution of endorsement.
Is that the other with the cat?
That's the cattery.
That's the
Well,
cat.
it includes
Cattery's
the
number
cattery.
5.
It includes the cattery.
You can have a split vote here.
Yeah.
You approve
Well, I'm
certain
gonna make
ones.
a motion because I have some questions.
I'll second.
Motion made, second to approve this thing. Discussion.
I have a question, not a question, but a point of fact, in principle, that we could, the state could do much better with their money than using it for some of the things here. I would have liked to seen us be able to cherry pick the ones that we were for instead of just giving a verbal okay for the entire slate. Based on that, I cannot support this endeavor.
I think the first
Well,
three
we
are-
had our say, we did have a say in this last
picked
year.
Last year. The
Last
top
year,
three,
we- yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
Picked
but
six,
the
right.
whole thing with a regional, with any sort of regional effort is that your priority isn't necessarily going to be the region's priority. You know, as I said, I think the GIS was our number 1. I think the land records was 2. I know the value-added processing and production incubator for agriculture. I know those were ones we definitely voted in support of. I'm not remembering the 3-hospital emergency care enhancement study, but it could be because that wasn't one that was high on our list, so I don't
would have
remember.
liked it to be, so we already had a chance. I know
Right.
Yeah.
Tony had
Yeah.
indicated, and I
Yeah, we
understand.
did, we voted on this last year,
Who's we?
the Board of Selectmen.
You, me, and we were out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask,
you voted on each one of these?
No, we-
We were
We
given
set a
a
priority.
list. We were given a list of possible projects. I don't remember offhand how many there were, but it was more than 6.
But these were the
Yeah.
highest goal-getters out of
Apparently, right.
Every town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we ranked from 1 to 6, I think,
What I
what our
remember-
top ones were.
So let
And
me
then
ask-
someone sat down and figured out what,
Right.
so let me ask a hypothetical question. So what happens if we vote no? If we all shoot this down? Does that mean we're not included in this new
That's
thing?
what my question was gonna be. Are we not eligible to apply
Right.
for a grant that we
Right.
want? Or are we
I
not
don't
gonna
know
get our
if it's
piece of the pie?
unanimous or nothing.
Well, I'm just saying, what if it
If all
fails?
16, if all 16 towns have to vote to make it,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
Because, I mean,
This is the democratic process, unfortunately, that they had bigger needs than we did. I know one of the ones we had was equipment sharing.
Yes.
We talked about being able to get a grant to share equipment.
And
purchase of
clean
equipment.
energy, there was.
So
the
how
clean
many items
energy
would have
one.
been on the agenda totally?
But obviously that
20,
didn't make the
No,
list then.
something
Right.
like 12 to
Didn't make the
15.
list. So,
my philosophy is, I might not be a big fan of the cattery, but, you know,
The
if...
first line,
Right.
somebody other than us is.
The GIS
Out of the
is,
16.
But the
15
GIS is important, so, and if
Yeah.
that's rate number 1, and it's a grant, you know, I'll support it, but if it gets all the way down to number 5 and number 6, which I highly doubt, all right, so we got a cattery.
Well, it's better than having the cats in our backyard.
That's
Come
true.
on,
Right.
you know.
They'll be down at Dayton.
Yeah.
There'll be the catteries
right,
in
they'll
Dayton,
be
yeah.
there.
Peter,
We'll go south.
we do share, like this, to me, this, I equate this with like the engineer. We have an engineer share, and he's on call for all these towns. So we pay for it, like the other towns. But if I call them, like, he's doing 2 surveys for us right now on sidewalks. So that, I forget it was, what's his name?
so Paul,
Okay, he's doing all the work to figure out how much it's gonna cost, how much cubic foot per sidewalk, and if you have to move poles and fire hydrants and all that other stuff. So they're doing that. He's doing something for Brooklyn. He's doing something for Killenly. So on that aspect, it's fine. I mean, I'm with you, cats and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's part of the whole deal, and, you know, we're a metropolis, but we're like New York City compared to some of these towns. What do you do in Sterling? What do you do in Eastford? So they have cats, I guess.
And they may be, you know, I know we have not-for-profit groups that have been trying to address the stray cat issue in Putnam on their own. It could be that because we're a more compact community, they've been able to achieve more and eliminate more of the problem in Putnam than in a more widespread area like Pomfret or Woodstock or Scotland. I mean, it's stray cats do pose a danger for disease. It's not a crazy priority. It may not be my personal priority, but it's not a crazy priority looking at it from a public health perspective.
So Doug, all the communities have to vote in favor of
Yes.
this, for this to be enacted?
Right.
Does it
To
have to
go,
be
no,
unanimous?
to be, I don't know that.
That's what
That's what I'm
my
asking the
question
question.
was on the 7-0.
I don't think so.
That was just my
Yeah.
placeholder.
Yeah,
That was my placeholder.
Yeah.
Placeholder.
right. But
Yeah.
if we want to be part of any of these, I think we have to approve this.
Yeah, but isn't it a majority vote still? I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So seeing there's no more discussion, all in favor of supporting this initiative, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Vote is 5-2,
Oh, I can't.
Wow.
not 7-0.
So much for your 7-0.
First
I'm sorry. I'm not a very good
Yeah.
vote counter.
Okay. Next, F is the neighborhood, you have that in your package. It's this nice blue letter, Department of Revenue Service.
This is just a sort of like a value-added program that the state offers in terms of if you have eligible items in your town that are doing a fundraising effort, and if you go through this process and they are found eligible to be participating in the Neighborhood Assistance Act, then they can offer up to somebody that contributes to their cause. I forget what it is. In certain cases, I think it's 100% tax credit, and it's 60%. We used it to great effect on the bandstand in Putnam with that program. So, again, there might not be any projects out there that would want to come in under the Neighborhood Assistance Act, but it's just a tool that the state offers, and which is a good thing for the town. All you would have to do at this point is to advertise it, because there still has to be a hearing, and you have to go to a town meeting on any project that comes forward before you can even apply to the state. So if it's your desire to just at least advertise to see if there's any interest out there, then we can do that.
We usually go at 3-4
3 or
every year.
Yeah. I'll make
I mean,
that
East
motion.
Putnam was eligible.
Sorry.
Motion by Alma, second by
Give it to
Renee.
Renee.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the Neighborhood Assistance Act, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item is accept the resignation of Glenn Allen from the Putnam High School Building Committee.
So move with
We
regrets.
accept with regrets.
He
Motion
really
made.
served well while I was on it. He was very knowledgeable and did his homework, so it will be a loss.
Motion made and second to accept Mr. Allen's resignation with regret. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Okay, approval of bills.
I make a motion, we pay all approved bills.
Second.
Motion made and second to pay all approved bills. All set with that? Any questions?
I do want to make a point that Scott and I picked out several, CLMP was one, AT&T was the other, where we think we could save quite a bit of money if we somehow go into this with the high school on some of these, whereby we could reduce our rates significantly. For example, I'm paying less for electricity than we're paying at the town, just for an idea.
Where there's all different kinds of rates that the town is getting, and some of them are twice what Peter and I are paying.
Wasn't that something to do with shared?
Yeah, we went in on,
You
through
got-
CCM on their
Yeah.
application.
You got Spark Energy.
You got
you
Spark.
you- You guys are,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we really gotta sit down and look at combining everything.
But I'm saying,
Well-
I think that was something we did with CCM, and that was.
CCM would not accept all of our accounts.
Well, they took you for a ride.
Yeah.
Just letting you know, you're paying 15 cents a kilowatt hour in some instances.
I pay
Peter and I are paying
$7.99, that's
$7.80.
89 idea. I get somebody,
CCM
uh,
ones or no?
No, we're kind of locked in on that, that's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
that's right.
They-
Yeah.
Well,
They suck you in.
Old Dominion,
Plus you're paying a
Dominion.
hefty fee to charge.
I would want to investigate that, because to me, it's just money that we're just throwing out the window.
What
and
do
then
you want to
voice
do?
over
I want to
IP.
investigate,
Okay.
AT&T, voice over IP.
oh yeah,
Better than
yeah, that's
that.
the other thing, the phone bill, you got a $3,800 phone bill, and you're getting charged per call.
That will go.
In the day and age of voice over IP, that's ludicrous.
It's going to go away, it said.
Yeah,
The Nutmeg network, when that's in place, we will be able to do voice over IP.
all right.
And there's a total quote in the capital.
Well, I could hook you up with voice over IP in about a half hour, so I mean, you
In
know,
the meantime.
you have internet coming into into the building, we could do voice over IP right now, but I really think we should sit down, I don't know if we have to form a committee, or just take the guys that sign off on the bills, and sit down and look at all the bills and see if we could,
That would be a good committee, you and Owen.
So it's finance.
and Peter.
Finance.
And Peter.
Yeah.
Right, two
Yeah.
heavyweights and one lightweight. That's fair.
I'd rather be a lightweight.
Okay. All right, we approved the bills, and with the addendum that we should take a really good look at the utilities that will be paid.
That's a start.
A couple of weeks ago, an embarrassment happened to the town of Putnam. Yeah, I thought we voted on the bill. All those in favor of approving the bills, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. But we did that. We just did it
You
again.
just thought we did.
Okay. A couple weeks ago, our town was embarrassed. Delph Berry had some gentlemen come in, if possible, to move into our town, and Delph had to get on her hands and knees on the floor to open up a map because there was no room in that closet she's in. To me, it's very embarrassing, and a lot more can be done for the person who brings in a lot to our town. And one of the suggestions is, and I asked Delph to do, I says, look around, see where you can go. Her stuff is stored at the armory, and there's a fear factor that some of her files are going to get damaged down there because of the dampness. Some of her files are stored in the mayor's office and other places in this town hall. And that's not good for her, because every time, if I have people in my office, they have to come in and get stuff and pull stuff out of their files. So, without any town monies, without any citizen monies, without any taxpayers' monies, Delpha looked at a couple places and asked Doug and myself, what do you think of this? I'm all for it. Not that I don't like Delpha. These are not normal names. No. Should be like Jane and Mary or something. But anyhow, so I'm the one who initiated Delpha to look around. So she has been on the hunt.
So where do you got?
So she got several places, and the best pick is right across from the Congregational Church in the Shaw Building. He's going to cap the rate at $1,000, and that includes all the utilities, garbage pickup, and et cetera, et cetera. It'll also be our tourist center. So, and this is what Delpha wrote. She's requesting.
You should add that to the agenda.
So I so move that we add the ECD office space to the agenda.
Motion made, second, to add a PRA EDC leasing option to the agenda. Is that your motion?
Yes.
And second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of adding to the agenda, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So to get back, so I basically initiated Delpha to do that, and it's to house the Putnam Redevelopment Agency and the Office of Economic and Community Development with leasing options. The request is contingent on approval of the Putnam Redevelopment Agency, and it was approved at the March 14th meeting, the special meeting. I just think it's a shame and it's a shock and it's an embarrassment that an employee of Delphus statute has to do what she has to do to wine and dine people, and then, people, this is economic development. I mean, we're not asking for the Taj Mahal here. I'm sure she could, where's she going to get the money? There are a couple, I'll let Delpha explain where you need the money. Delpha, if you would.
Sure. A couple years ago, when we were going through an auditing process, there's a redevelopment account, and that was on the books for maybe 20 years. And we have done some revolving loans out of that fund. There's approximately $216,000 in that right now. We've talked at our recent redevelopment meetings, and I've also talked to the town administrator on doing some sidewalk projects with that. But for $200,000, you don't get a lot of sidewalks, and I think there's money better used because we'll never be able to recoup this money back. So I contacted, it's an account that was given by USDA Rural Development through, I think it was farmers, and nobody seems to know where it originally generated from. So I contacted the main office in Massachusetts to get some historical data on what we could use that money for, and it seems that they had no records. It was an old account, and so I asked permission for us to be able to use it for whatever appropriate purpose that we deemed necessary. So along with the leasing options, and of course it's the redevelopment agency's funding, so we're talking about maybe even using some of the funds for some of the wayfinding grant, because now we have a plan, now maybe we can go get some signage. But, I thank the mayor for his very nice comments, but it's really more of a space issue than the Taj Mahal type thing. I cannot send Jackie over alone to the armory anymore. There's
I wouldn't even keep it.
bird poop all over the place. And some of these records are old CDBG grants that we have to go back when we have to close out an account, a mortgage, that kind of thing that we need.
How long you gotta keep some of this stuff? Years and years?
Until perhaps the house is sold, then the lien is written off the house on some of the CDBG grants. So, a lot of the originals are over there. We've kept what we can in offices. We keep our maps all in Doug's office. And it's really more about confidentiality than anything. Many times we can come in here, and if we're going over a business plan, but when people are kicking tires, knocking on doors to look about where to put businesses or talking about a business plan, it's very disconcerting to them to have people walking in and out. We had a conversation in our office a couple weeks ago, and someone came around the corner and, what is such and such doing, and that kind of thing, because there's just no, everything is so close, it's, it just happens.
Now, what building actually is this?
It's
The old shore, where the Ark is?
Yeah, next to the Ark.
Right next to it?
It's where the copy center was. They've actually
okay.
petitioned it off. There's about
So how much, can you fit all of your storage in there?
Yes, we can use the basement also. Clean, very dry, so we can...
So everything is gonna be, we'll take the stuff from the armory,
From town hall.
from the town hall, from Tony's office,
From Doug's office.
from Doug's office.
Out of the hallway.
Find you a
hallway.
Out of the hallway,
Yeah.
and town
Find you
workers
a
can move her
conference
over there.
So what's that, 1,000 or what?
Oh, good.
It's $850 a month for the lease, plus utilities, but he capped it off at $1,000. It will never be over $1,000 a month. That is for snow removal, electric, heat, 1,100 square feet of space, trash, and 2 parking spaces in the back. And the basement.
Peter's thinking of moving there.
Yeah. And we have it would have a conference room in the back.
So what would that do for you now? There's obviously stuff you're working on all the time, and some of the storage, I would assume you have to keep here. the stuff you're working on, right? You don't wanna go,
She's going over there.
Everything would go over
She's
there.
going over
Yeah.
there.
Her office would be
Yeah,
there.
her office is there.
over there.
Yeah.
Everything would go.
Yeah.
Everything's there.
oh,
How long is the lease, and is there a escalation clause?
It's a year, it's a 2-year lease.
2-year lease?
Right, there is no
so.
Escalation
Well, in other words,
clause in this
in
one.
year 3, could the rent be $2,000?
Yeah.
I think that Mr. Shaw has kept his rents extremely reasonable. I did a comparison to another space on South Main Street. That was $1,300, negotiable for 2 years, included the same utilities, and it was a little bit smaller space.
I would almost, negotiate a little bit and put an escalation clause in there saying that it cannot go up more than X.
Right, to renew it, yeah.
I have a comment, suggestion. Alfred, you want to make the switch, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Mostly for the clients. I like being in
I
town hall,
understand.
but it's mostly for the customers.
Now, and when Scott brought up the direction he was going in, I agree with Scott, but I want to take it just off his path a little bit. We know eventually we're going to move this town hall somewhere else, right?
Maybe.
It's probably going to happen at some
When the
point.
superintendent
Not
moves out, that opens
necessarily.
up a lot of space down there.
What I'm thinking is this. If we could go to Kevin and say, if you provide us a long-term lease, you will have a guaranteed tenant for X amount of years if you hold that price. So we're covered long-term, pick your number, 4, 5, 10 years or something. And then whenever we move into a new building, because we know eventually it's going to happen, you can't stop that progress.
There's too
I'm not
much
so
work that has to be.
It's
put
not
into
for
this.
50 years, Doug, so.
So
But I'm saying,
Yeah, but hold
it's
it.
on here.
if we go long-term,
Yeah.
he gets his tenant guaranteed, we get the space guaranteed at a low price, and then at some point in the future, when we move into a new building, possibly, then we can make that switch, because it'd be better to have everybody under that one roof in a new building, but until then,
Get more, what you're saying is get more years.
get more years.
And negotiate,
But let's say you say, hey, I want a 10-year lease,
Yeah.
and let's say in 5 years, we have a brand-new town hall.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe
Well,
vote
let's
on it,
say
say
the
5
money
years.
5 years. I would cap it at 5.
Say 5
Because-
years.
Yeah, no more.
Because maybe a decision could be reached in, who knows, in 6 years we might have a new town hall.
But at least now the numbers are consistent on a year-to-year
And
basis.
it's not gonna go up.
Just to let you know, I already have negotiated. I'm a very good negotiator.
Yeah.
Because they were asking $950. Got it down, plus utilities. Got it down to $850 to cap at $1,000. And I did mention that I wanted a long-term lease. And I think one of the caveats that attracted the Economic and Community Development Office, historically, we have been downtown since the 80s.
Right.
Or we were in Belding Mill. We've never,
Right.
I can't say never have been in the town hall, but historically, we are out in the community. The only thing that I'm asking tonight is he has, and I know this because they have asked me to find space for people, he has 2 other potential clients that are looking at this space. He really wants economic development because it's tried and true tenant, and he doesn't have to, a business fails in 6 months, they're out of there, he's got to start over, repaint, the whole
Right.
thing.
Question for you then, along those lines. So you have a year.
2
2 years.
Okay. Did you ask for 3, 4, or 5?
I did not.
That's the question. Maybe if you go back and say for 3, 4, and 5, can you keep that rate stable? We'll be willing to give you a 5-year lease.
Okay. If the decision needs to be made soon,
Yeah.
could the Board of Selectmen this evening approve it?
Contingent.
Contingent on a 4 or 5-year lease, not to increase more than 2 to 5%.
That works.
Not more than
Hold it,
2%.
steady.
As,
He gets a guaranteed tenant.
Well, yeah, but what will his electric rates be in 5 years?
Right,
That
right,
may-
exactly.
That may
What's
be,
that?
what's his electric rate's gonna be in 5
Yeah,
years?
it's that $1,000
You know.
cap that,
It's the cap that you're
Yeah.
fighting against. I don't think
I
it's
mean,
worth
that's
fighting
the
against.
reality, that's the reality of business also.
yeah, yeah.
Is,
You
I mean,
pay
a
less
two,
than 15 cents, I guarantee you that.
Easy 15 cents. So let's, we all agree that we're
Yeah.
gonna get Delphi.
Oh, yeah.
That's A.
Yeah, yeah.
B, it's downtown, I like where it's located, the church across the street, there's a lot of stuff there. There are people walking by every day, and if Delphi can get,
A longer lease rate, if not, that's.
right, if she can't get a long
Yeah.
lease, fine. As far as I'm concerned.
What is-
What about the, or, you know, another alternative would be 3 years fixed, a maximum of 5% over the next 2 years.
over the next, how many years?
2 years,
So it's up to 5 years.
yeah.
But
What
the
if-
first
That's a
three
long
fixed.
time.
First
may
three
not wanna
fixed.
do it.
We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of
No,
dollars here.
5%, it's only 50.
It's not gonna cost anybody any money. We have the money.
I used to.
You just like
Why
to do
don't
They
that.
like a deal, you know?
Yeah.
Why don't we,
Yeah.
why don't we up to electric rates? Why don't we approve it, but with the caveat that we encourage Delphi to negotiate for a 5-year lease with limited escalation? But if that's not possible, we authorize the 2 years at these terms.
My only thing about that is, why lock Delta in for
Yeah,
5 years? Suppose something better comes up.
Yeah.
Or-
Give it the 2 years, and if everything works out, then you can move on. If he's unreasonable, we beat him up in the
I
back
can
door.
assure you, we have been in this town hall 3 years already, which
Yeah.
has flown by.
Yeah.
I mean,
As we get older, time
2
flies
years
fast.
isn't much, Tony.
I know.
The other thing you should remember is, one of the things you're going to be facing in terms of the budget is increased staffing here. It's
Right.
new, and we don't have any place to put it.
Right.
And
We
you're
need
not
to
gonna
do
get a town
this.
hall and say like, at least 5 years, and that's why 5 years seems like a good idea.
But we're
It's
gonna
not
have
gonna
some
happen
office
in 5
space,
years.
In 2
right?
years, 3 years.
3 years?
Well, I'm
Well,
saying,
no house that the school's built,
Yeah.
but they're going like turtles over there.
We're rocking
2
and
years,
rolling.
3
Be a
years?
shovel in the ground this summer.
I want to see that.
No, we'll be.
What's that?
So when do
Tony
you
was
think,
saying we were like turtles at the building committee.
she
Be a
said,
shovel on the ground this summer.
as a landlord, I would not go more than 2 years. That's a
Yeah.
personal thing, because as a landlord, I would not go more than 2 years.
Right.
To get a 2-year, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Then get a 2-year re-up.
That's it.
Option for 2 years.
It just has to be
Yeah.
an option, 2
Right.
years guaranteed, I want an option. That's all.
Yeah.
And
Whatever the option is, don't tell
say, you're a good negotiator.
Peter,
right?
I'm cheaper than you are.
them. No.
What do you
I just
think of
said
that?
Peter, not Scott.
Nobody's cheap.
If it wasn't an inclusive deal, I think we would have a shot at it, but being that it's inclusive with a cap, I don't think anybody would do that as a landlord.
Yeah, not in this market.
Therefore,
No, not in this
Not in
market.
this market.
I'd like to make a motion to have Delphi finalize the deal with Mr. Shaw for $1,000 a month to rent that space for the next 2 years.
there's a second.
Second.
Motion made, second, to have Delphi negotiate with, or take the Shaw Place, $1,000 for 2 years.
Well, not to exceed.
Well, 2 years is 2 years.
2 years.
No, not to exceed the 1,000. He said he
Yes,
was
cap.
Yeah,
happy.
it's
not-
there.
Right.
Cap.
For $1,000.
Right.
We got the cap in there.
I'll second.
I think
It's
Already
seconded
seconded
already,
it
slow
already.
boy.
we're I
Second
think
by
I already
Alma.
made this motion a while ago, but
Yes.
yeah.
Peter,
I gotta wait for any discussion.
discussion.
Discussion would be with the option of a 5% cap for an additional 2 years.
Are you saying that you would approve it only if that were a term of the
Yeah,
lease, or that she try to get that?
If it was that
Try
much,
to get
if
that.
that was
Okay.
my spot, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna hang around for 50
But she's a
bucks.
good
Yeah, exactly,
negotiator,
50 bucks.
and I think she can get another 2 years at a 5% cap. And why not take the 2%? Because I know she's gonna need more time. Otherwise, it's gonna come 2 years,
Right.
and he's gonna be looking for 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 years, option, 5%.
Yeah.
All
Try to
right,
get
you
it.
can,
We have a
Try to
motion on
get-
the
There's a
floor,
motion.
somebody would have to.
You'd have to
You'd have to
amend
amend
the
that.
motion.
Yeah. Well, do we need it as if all it is asking her to attempt to get that added to the contract? then we don't need to amend the motion. She's being directed to see if she can negotiate that into the contract. The same way we will direct someone to ask the town attorney, so I will try. Yeah.
Attorney Lasko, you made
You want to be there 4 years,
What do I
right?
get?
You don't want to be there 2 years and look for another place, do you? You want to look for another place in 2 years?
No, we don't want to move.
That's my point.
Okay, we're calling the question here.
Yeah.
All those in favor of Owen's motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Delta,
I
start
think
packing.
that you can't have better furniture than we have.
You broke all my
Look at this kid on the
chairs.
You see me in the
Yeah, they were, you guys broke them all.
Delpha, one thing, you gotta go find that missing chair.
Gloria, how are you?
Someone-
The last piece is,
No.
at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting, Mr. Benoit asked that he receive my idea, being the mayor, of my 5-year plan, which I handed out to every one of you, and it's in no real particular order, but these are the things that are near and dear to me. And I said for Putnam's development improvement, number one, the library, and I put little notes, $5 to $6 million, then I put location with a question mark. New Bridge, the YMCA, that's going off the bid May this year. YMC gravel removal by June 14th. Construction as soon as the removal of the gravel. Armory, town property, what are you going to do with it? High school
Knock it down.
renovations, bid process has started. Once it's completed, we're going to create 5 or 6 rooms down here. Town hall, some of the improvements, we need a new roof, got to repoint the bricks, paint and floors got to be taken care of. Parking, downtown parking is atrocious. My suggestion is put parking meters in, or put 2-hour parking limits with police foot patrol. Sidewalks to Daykill Hospital, to Walmart, Tars Field. NECON is working on that. Tech Park, after the bridge complete, let's get going. We need the gas pipeline, bring water, street, lights, water, sewer, all infrastructure in place. Advertise local, statewide, nationwide for a partner. Clean town, town beauty, provide downtown and surrounding area with these things called Boston barrels I mentioned last time. One is for garbage, one's for recycling. Town is the trash. You get civic groups like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Little League, pick up the bottles every week. So it's out of our hands. Senior helping. To help out our seniors, have Putnam High School students needing community service credit for graduation. Shovel snow, lawn mowers. What I'm doing now is I have a list of where all the seniors own a house. And now I'm matching up with the high school kids in their area. So when it snows, they just have a special, like a tree line, a tree phone, and say, okay, it's shoveled, please do my, and they get community service, and the seniors get their sidewalks shoveled. It's not involuntary servitude, it's community service. The last thing is, new town hall website, we talked about that today. So as I put on the bottom, it's going to take 4 or 5 years to complete these, but I think it's going to be helpful, and they can be done. Some is on us, some is on other entities. So Pete, I hope that gets what you wanted. If we can get those things done, we'll be on New England Magazine again.
Yeah.
The #1 best town in New England. Next item is public comments. Anybody have any public comments? Yes, sir, Mr. Garzo.
Okay, Bob Garso, 110 Gold.
You gotta put you on the
Just a couple
clock.
comments.
Go ahead.
Number one, on the Board of Assessment Appeals. Typically, it's this time of the year when we do the appeals for property, and it's September when we do motor vehicles. The thing about the property is we don't get involved with the properties that are in the high range. You know, Doug mentioned, you know, the Kmart. We don't get involved with that. But there's a certain cutoff, and I was going to try to find out what it was, and I'm not sure, so I'm not going to throw the number out there, but there is a cutoff where we can choose not to get involved, and it really ends up in the courts, and that gets dragged out. The second thing I want to comment, I'm a little bit disappointed that the town hall employees would want to cut off Fridays. That really surprises me because, you know, that doesn't send a very good message to the taxpayers, that the people that foot the bill, the people that can only come, say, on a Friday or any other day of the week. I'm just surprised that they would come up with a request like that.
With nothing on a Saturday.
Right.
Right.
Well, one thing I would suggest, though, because I do like to compromise, you might want to look and see if other towns have summer hours. Okay, now their first option was to close, I think, on Friday afternoons.
No, Friday all day.
Yeah, that was two
One of the other
options.
Option A was, yeah.
And option A was
11:30.
to close on Friday afternoons. That's not a bad idea during the summer, if some of the other towns are doing it. I know they do it at the college, they're closed on Fridays starting in June all the way through till
Yeah.
sometime middle of August. That's not uncommon, I think even some of your local colleges might do the same thing. The offices are closed. Whether the towns do that, I really don't know, but I think that to close on Fridays, that just does not send a good message to the people of the community. I'm just not in favor of that at all.
Yeah,
You're not getting many arguments up here.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
I
You're
really
not getting
think,
many arguments up here.
I think this wasn't to help the community, it was for the town hall employees to have Friday off. That was the whole objective of this whole thing.
And we're not talking, no, there are some departments that have to stay late. There are
Right.
other departments that don't have to stay late. Is this for every single employee?
Yeah.
Is this for just a few employees? Is it just for the assessor? Who's it for?
Right.
And what about the union?
Right.
Are we infringing on their hourly rate and stuff like that? There's a lot of questions.
Well, it also, will the highway department only want to work 4 days a week?
All right.
Okay, we get a major snowstorm. Snowstorm.
But Friday we're not working.
We're not working.
Yeah.
I can understand that. Well, anyhow,
Or we're gonna get double time because it's Friday.
Yeah.
anybody, other comments from the citizenry? Yes, sir.
John Perry, 11 Bowl Street. Last night, unfortunately, one of the tenants on the street decided to take down a stop sign. We need the DOT to come back and put it back up.
Okay. So noted. Any other citizens? Seeing none, I move for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Besides Doug Cutler.
Junior.